All right, welcome back to the Kissel and Timpf show, everybody. How you doing, Kat?
I'm fine.
That's good. Yeah. You got now obviously you're here in New York right now, but next week you're going to go over to beautiful Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm going to
Cleveland, Ohio.
I'm going to the convention. I'm going for Barstool Sports, but I'll be doing stuff for Fox too, I'm sure.
Yeah, can you talk about what you're going to be doing over there for Barstool Sports?
I want to try to start like a tailgate.
Yeah.
And a protest.
Well, I think that's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
To go to these conventions, and they're supposed to be full of the super fans for the party that they're celebrating.
I really want to focus on the I think it's going to be absolutely crazy because there are probably going to be all kinds of protesters. Because there's people who are Republicans who hate Trump, and then there's people who hate the people who hate Trump, and then there's obviously, classic old Occupy Wall Street type of people that are going to be there, and it's going to be one wild time.
Do you think because Hillary Clinton got the nomination for the Democrats that the Occupy Wall Street camp might go over to the DNC and protest there? Because if you look at Trump's tax ideas when it comes to Wall Street, they're not very happy with him.
Right, yeah, they're really, really not. Maybe, I don't know, they're a little bit more subdued. I think that the Dem convention is going to be a lot more of a snooze fest.
You do?
Even if I love how Hillary was like, we're going to try to bring the cast of Hamilton. Because nobody wants to watch it. So what, you're just going to, instead of a Dem convention, just let's have Hamilton.
Well, that's going to be one of the most amazing things to watch, the spectacle that is the Republican National Convention. Because
in its own. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, Trump, the one thing about him, the irony is in 2007, when Barack Obama was running, people often criticized him on the right and on the left during the primary cycle about how he was the celebrity candidate.
I know.
And now we actually have a celebrity candidate. And I will say the Republican, more conservative-leaning people in this country have sort of been hush about calling him the
people would get mad
chief.
at Obama for going on reality shows, but Trump came literally from his own reality show.
About 30 years of being on television constantly.
Years. Yeah, but you know what? It's the Trump show has been interesting. You mean, you remember buddy, we'd watch those debates. We get all excited. We get some drinks. We get some snacks.
Oh my
I'm
God.
a nerd, so I always get really excited for the debates. And boy, oh boy, am I excited for the Trump versus Hillary.
Yes.
But I feel like people that weren't nerds like us, politics nerds, got really excited to go watch Trump. And I feel like we could see this here too.
Well, I mean, there's a reason that there was 24 million people that tuned in to the CNN debate. I believe that was the second debate. I think they started on Fox News, which began the feud between Megyn Kelly and Donald Trump. And those ratings were roughly 25 million as well. I mean, unheard of for a presidential debate, specifically the first one. I mean, if you're the Republicans at that point, I believe they had 16 on stage, 4 off, 4, and then 4 more in a, or perhaps there was 12 on stage and then 4 more in a pre-debate where Carly Fiorina did very well.
What's that called again? The undercard debate?
Yeah, with Rick Santorum and poor Lindsey Graham. I love Lindsey.
How's Ricky doing these days?
Rick Santorum is just hanging out with that child of his that wasn't born. He had a kid. I'm not going to get into it. Do you remember that story with the kid?
No.
Well, I don't know if we can get into it. His wife had
I remember that.
Had a stillborn, and they brought it home, and the kids played with it.
Yes.
It's an interesting style of parenting to say the least.
Interesting guy.
Donald Trump has managed to bring, just like you were discussing, an entertaining angle to politics that hadn't previously been seen. I mean, he completely blew the lid off of what was considered political, the normal characteristics of a political person. So do you think with the RNC convention, his supporters, the people that love him, there are so many detractors out there, but the people that love him, they are probably in for one of the better shows that have ever happened at a political convention. I mean, going back to 2012, when the highlight was Charleston Heston talking to an empty chair.
Right,
or not
absolutely.
Charleston Heston, the other fellow who made Gran Torino.
Yeah, that was the highlight. And it's going to be the Trump show. There's no... I wonder if he's going to be scripted. They're going to have him be more scripted, but it's always a bummer when he is scripted. It's not as interesting to me.
It's not as interesting, and he's having a very difficult time, because he gets such a surge from the crowd when he talks to them.
Yes.
That for him to switch over, he doesn't really enjoy it anymore, and you get the feeling as soon as Trump stops enjoying something, he's just kind of done with it.
He wants to go out there. He wants to talk about building the wall. He wants to talk about how we're being raped by China. That's the Trump that people fell in love with.
That was the Trump that had 4 million new voters come out and support him in one of the largest primaries in Republican history.
Right, of course. But, again, the love that that Trump supporters have for Trump is the kind of love that we're all looking for.
That is absolutely true. The kind of love you had for Pokemon Go, but then you got bored with it, just like Trump might get bored with it and he might drop it.
I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to really commit to anything.
I know, it's very tough. And the person who was at the RNC convention talking to the empty chair was, of course, Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
That's correct. I remember.
What did you say?
Oh, Charleston Heston, but I think he's dead now.
I don't know.
I'm not quite certain.
I don't know.
So who do you think is going to be at the lineup for Trump? And when I say that, I also mean, who do you think is going to be standing next to him on stage as his vice presidential candidate?
This has been so interesting because normally people are vying for it, like really hardcore to be the VP, but with Trump, people are kind of like, do I want to brand myself as Trump's VP?
Sure.
My political career, because I feel like being Trump's VP is getting invited to a really cool party.
Right.
But you don't know if you're going to both get thrown out because of the person you're going with.
Right, absolutely.
That's kind of how I think of it.
It's very possible. I mean, who do you think he doesn't want to play identity politics with it, or what he said he doesn't want to. Obviously, out of Iowa, you have someone like Joni Ernst. You have Mary Fallon. I believe she is out of Oklahoma. And then, of course, you have your Governor Mike Pence from Indiana. You have Chris Christie out of New Jersey, who one could really argue if he doesn't get the VP spot, he ruined his political
career
for nothing.
I remember that when he endorsed Trump, and when they were introducing him, he was just standing there with this face like, what have I done?
Oh my God. It's like when you marry Becky, but you always wanted to marry Wendy, and you look at her in the crowd, and you're like, no, for life.
Yeah.
So who do you think, what direction do you think Trump has to go in, right? Because obviously for Hillary, she needs to get somebody likable, someone that relates to the younger millennials, someone who is more in touch with the social movements of the left. With Trump, he needs someone who would reassure us that he is not going to nuke everyone, Europe, because he got into a small spat with Angela Merkel on Twitter.
On Twitter, exactly. Someone tweeted something at me, and next thing you know, we're at war. I mean, I think that's going to be important. I think somebody with political experience could make some other people feel better.
Right.
I don't know. It's interesting that he's thinking of going more pro-choice, because I know a lot of people are concerned about his views on abortion.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I mean, I think he will have to go with someone who is slightly more socially conservative than he is, because let's be honest, under a President Trump, if that would ever happen, and the fact that I'm even uttering that sentence in the real world without any irony.
You go with Anthony Bourdain, or you go with the guy from Catfish, or Joey Greco of Cheaters.
Joey Greco,
I love him. He's always like, how you doing? He's like, well, I just saw it.
Joey Greco got stabbed in an episode of Cheaters, by the way.
I've seen that one. They were on a boat, and he got stabbed.
Yes.
I don't know if that was real.
I think he did get stabbed.
I don't know.
He absolutely did. That was a totally real thing. There was nothing fraudulent about Cheaters whatsoever.
Yeah.
Mike Flynn is another fella. He's a retired lieutenant general in the U.S. Army, and he's been in talks right now with Donald Trump, or at least Donald Trump has been speaking at him. I'm not sure if he's listening.
Right.
But somebody like that who would stabilize Donald Trump in a foreign policy sense. Because, again, going back to our conversation from yesterday, Donald Trump not knowing what the nuclear triad is, not knowing what Brexit was after, by the way, he didn't know what Brexit was, but he was for it, which is kind of terrifying. I'm not necessarily against Brexit. I can understand the reasons being for Brexit. I think nationalism and having a national identity is a good thing in many, many ways. Obviously, it can be perverted, as we've seen in the past. But with Trump, I mean, someone like a Mike Flynn, that might solidify the concern or loosen the concerns, ease the worry,
especially with the Army experience. I mean, well, let us not forget the John McCain. I like ones that aren't captured.
Right.
He kind of made a lot of people mad with that, too.
Yes, of course. John McCain, an American war hero who spent 5 years in a camp run by the Viet Cong, and he could have gotten out earlier had he chosen to, but he wanted to stay with his countrymen like a real hero. If you are John McCain, and if you are an establishment GOP member, it's got to be very insane to watch what Donald Trump has done to your party. Mm-hmm. But we'll keep on talking more about Trump and about Hillary and about the DNC and RNC conventions when we come back.